Let's create some Christmas decor using ornament balls and pool noodles. Start by connecting the ends of the pool noodles using duct tape. Place the end of each pool noodle on the sides of a piece of duct tape that is about 12 inches long. Simply roll the noodles onto the tape and secure. Now, connect the other ends to create a complete circle with the pool noodles and duct tape those ends together. Now, sometimes pool noodles don't want to cooperate. If they don't want to twist or bend, just manipulate the pool noodles a little bit and they will become a little more pliable. Next, create a hanger. Cut a piece of rustic wire or wire that is covered with jute or other protective material that is about 25 inches long. Fold that in half. Slip this under the pool noodle so the loop is on one side. Bring the tails of the wire up and over the pool noodle and twist several times around the loop. This will create a secure hanger. Start gluing the ornament balls to the outer perimeter of the pool noodle circle with the top of the ornament facing down. So once it's glued to the side, you don't see that top tip from the front of the wreath. Now, here is a tip to consider. Don't put the glue directly on the pool noodle because the pool noodle will melt. Instead, put the glue on the ornament and let it cool for just a couple of seconds before attaching the ornament to the outside of the pool noodle. Once you place it on the pool noodle, hold it in place for a few seconds to let the glue cool and to make sure that it is secure. As you add ornaments and continue around the circle, you're going to want to put a little bit of glue in between the ornaments. This just helps to secure the ornaments even more so that nothing is going to fall off the wreath when it is finished. Have fun mixing and matching the colors of ornaments that you use. You just kind of place them in a design that works for you. Continue gluing around the entire pool noodle circle. Once the outside is done, start to glue ornaments to the inside of the circle. If you like, you can stop after you have glued one complete inside circle. Now, I want my wreath to be pretty hefty and full of ornaments, so I'm gluing an additional circle of ornaments. Just glue the one ornament to the other and hold in place until it is cooled. Once the outside and inside perimeter of the pool noodle circle is glued with ornaments, start to fill in the middle. This is when your wreath really starts to take shape. Once most of the pool noodle surface is covered, start to glue smaller sized ornaments to fill in the gaps. You can take it one step further and glue small picks of greenery or other Christmas picks to fill in the gaps. This just adds some more texture and interest to the ornament wreath. And now you have a dramatic and breathtaking Christmas wreath. Hang your wreath on a window outdoors as a spectacular Christmas wreath masterpiece. I hope you enjoyed this Christmas wreath project. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Missy with Sonata Home Design, and I'll see you next time.
So we're going to start with I have a piece of shelf here. You can see the holes from the bracket on the back, and I don't need it anymore, so I'm going to turn it into this fun holiday project. So what we want to start by doing is marking off our board. And I'm going to mark it kind of roughly in thirds. So I'm just using my ruler and I'm going to mark this off here, about here. It doesn't have to be, exactly measured. You just want to kind of mark it off. And then I'm going to make a little line at the top here. What I also want to do is mark I'm just going to make this the width of my ruler here, a little section here, and I'm going to make 2 sections on either side, the width of my ruler as well. Now I'm just using a standard ruler and a pencil to block off my piece of wood. So now that I have 3 sections, I have this big section down here, the middle and the top, I'm going to go ahead and start painting my board. I want to make sure that I also go right over onto the side of my board. So I'm just going to draw a rough little line here on the side so I can see where to go. And for our project, we want to start, I'm going to use some Annie Sloan chalk paint. Because my board has a little bit of a coating on here, I'm going to use this paint because it sticks and adheres to just about everything. So I'm going to start by painting the bottom section of my board black. And because I have a pretty steady hand, I'm not going to tape it. I am just going to go straight across here on that line I made and just come right across with my paint. And then I'm going to paint the whole bottom section black. The next thing I want to do is mark off 2 more sections down here. So I marked off my width of my ruler here, and I want to mark off 2 more little sections. So I'm going to just measure this part because I want this part to be equal on both sides. So I've got about 7.5 inches here. So I'm going to do 2 inches on this side and, 7.25 inches. And I'm going to do 2 inches on this side. So I'm just going to mark this 2 inches and go in 2 inches about here. And I'm going to mark that off with another ruler line here. And I'm going to keep this section in the middle white so I don't have to worry about painting this section here. Now, because I'm not painting that section, if we want to make it nice and crisp, you can use some painter's tape like I was showing you before. And this will give you a nice crisp line in the center. And I'm just blocking out these sections so you can see how to do this here. I'm also going to put one just across the top here so that I can make a nice straight line, because that's a line I'm not going to want to clean up later. And again on this side here. Okay, so we've got our little section taped off here, and I love blues. I have blues all over my house, and so I'm going to use some of this gorgeous blue paint by Annie Sloan. It's called Obozon, and I'm just going to paint in these sections here. So I'm going to put a nice thick coat on, and I'm just going to let these dry, and I'll pop back in just a second to show you what we're going to do next. Now that my paint sections are dry, I'm going to go ahead and peel up my painter's tape here, and this is just a low tack painter's tape that I'm using. Peel this up, and then we're going to start doing some of the other sections. Now remember, I said I want to leave this section white, so I'm not going to worry about that section, but I do want to paint these 2 edges as well as this top part. So I'm going to use my painter's tape again, and I do want to take these off because I want to make a nice clean line, or as much as possible so that it's not a lot to fix up later. And I'm going to take this, and I don't want to stick it too far down because my paint is pretty fresh here. So I'm just going to stick the edge along there. Okay, so I've got my sides blocked off here. Now for these sections, I want to use the same blue that I used on the other sections, but I want to make it just a little bit darker. So I'm going to mix some on a plate here. And I'm going to take that gorgeous blue color, and I'm just going to add a little bit of black to it because I want to make these just a little bit darker than those blue sections. And I want to use this, and I'm going to paint these side sections. And I want to make sure that I go right down along my side here. Give it a nice thick coat. With our darker blue sections dry here, now we want to move on to this block near the top. So I'm going to use my painter's tape again to block off this section that's white in the middle here. And I'm going to fill in this section with this peachy colored paint that I have ready to go here. I'm just going to fill in this section. And then I want to start adding some little gold highlights, and I'm going to use this metallic gold paint to do these. And I'm just going to use a little fine artist brush. I've got a whole bunch here, and I'm going to make some lines down here, and these are going to be our Nutcracker's feet. Okay, So we've got the little tops of his boots. I'm gonna let that dry, and I'm going to take a little bit of a thicker brush, and I'm going to paint in here. And while I have this paintbrush here, I want to go ahead and, since my blue is dry here, I want to add some buttons up and down. This is going to be his coat, so I want to add some buttons, and I'm just going to start one in the middle here. I'm just going to draw some circles, and I'm just doing this freehand. You can always measure them out if you want. So these will be the ties to his boots, and then I'm going to take my same glitter gold paint here, and now I have my lines, so I'm just going to trace right over those lines. With these lines, you want to make sure that you do not go over onto the side, because these are like boot laces, so they wouldn't be over on the side. So I'm just doing all the little embellishments for his feet here, just on the top of my board. Now, while I've got this out too, I also want to connect these little buttons. So I want to make just like little chains between the buttons. So I'm just going to loop around, add some little embellishments here. Okay, and then while I still have my gold paint, I want to connect my buttons that I put on his hat as well. And I'm going to do a double chain on this one. So I'm going to make one that's pretty small. And then I'm just going to loop around a second chain that's longer. Something else I wanted to show you here before we move and finish his face was that I wanted to add some little hands here. So I'm just going to draw a little, kind of like a little semicircle. They don't have to be fancy by any means at the bottom of these dark blue stripes. And I'm going to fill them in with that same peachy colored paint that we used to create his face. So I'm just going to use a little bit of that in this brush. Add some little hands here just so he has some hands on his arms. Start by very lightly penciling in his nose here. And I'm going to fill this in with black paint, so I'm not too worried about having a pencil mark. But when I'm using pencil, it gives me a chance to kind of see it and play with it before I start to fill it in. And then if I really don't like it, I can always paint right over it and start again. Okay, so I've got my face there, just a rough outline. And what I want to do now is start filling it in. So I'm going to use the same black paint I used for the other black parts on our Nutcracker. So I will finish off the face of my little Nutcracker here with some eyes. And one thing I want to show you before I finish the face is I do want to add some little rosy cheeks to my Nutcracker. So I'm going to use some of this rose gold. It's actually a wax, and I'm going to use some of this. And I'm just going to draw some kind of rosy cheeks on here. So I just wanted to show you that before I finish off my... The next time you have an old piece of shelving or wood at home, I hope you'll grab it and some paint to make this super cute and easy holiday Nutcracker. It is perfect for your porch, and your neighbors will definitely be jealous. Thank you for watching Home Talk. I'm Lisa from Recreated Designs. I'll see you next time.